running around the traffic density, which is somewhat, it shows to me the influence of the HCM right at the beginning. I mean, to me, there's nothing wrong with this, but it's like the cornerstone, the main point here is that let's pick the density. You showed this at the, I guess, 4, 3, and 4. Let's pick density. Obviously, HCM already picked density before to separate the level of service. And let's try to assess if this is the main point. So I'm telling you this, Piva, because it's really hard to come up with attributes, to come up with aspects that would influence our perception while we're in a freeway environment. But I was thinking, let's say pavement quality. Yes. So this is only valid for a very nice pavement. Okay. But I mean, we may have some, we get some clues from the pavement itself to say that the strip is very nice. It's level of service A, B, and C. Other things like I feel that the grade, for example, when we say like 3%, 4%, we know this is a very low. It has to be a very low limit for a freeway, right? Maximum 5 or 6%, because otherwise it's not a highway, a freeway. But I think that with the tool that you use, it's very hard for the user to perceive the difference in the grade. I know that this sim has internal model that see according to the, but I mean, I think that the driver, the user gets some clues from outside as well to judge the trip. So this can be, I mean, we can discuss this a lot, but let me ask you an initial question. I put it in Portuguese. I have to translate it here into. So how do you imagine? So you have your works, and a very nice work, and you have the guys from I forgot the name of the HCQS committee. So the HCQS committee gets your thesis. It's a very nice one. So how do you think that they will view your thesis? Option 1, as something to add up on the actual.
Sorry, but it's cutting during the question. Can you understand?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I think the microphone of Elena is also.
So how about now? It's better? No?
Wait, just a second. Okay, I
How's
think
now?
no. I think you can go now.
It's better now?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So how do you think, like, one of those guys get your thesis of, well, this is a very nice work, and then user perception and use the microscopic simulated data, and will they see this work as a additional thing to consider in the method, or which, I mean, with the potential to be a new method, or they will see it just as, well, we just validate the fact that we have been using K, we have been using density as the criteria to separate level of service. How do you see this? Do you think this is this might be important? I mean,
okay. I think that in this research, what we try to do, it was we validate that the density was the most important thing, and just we have one initial problem that, for example, we try to analyze 16 different levels of service, and of course this become a oh no, levels of density. Yeah, sorry.
no worries.
Levels of density But for example, if we try to have 16 different number of lanes, it couldn't happen on during the micro simulation. And or if we try to create 16 levels of great magnitude, probably it was too short to create another thing. But I think that we validate that the levels, the density was the main important factor. But we also said that maybe using the user's perception, it's not 5 the number of level of service. We don't know if the regulatory agencies want to use 5, 6, 10, or if other agency want to try another different number of level of service. But we said, oh, just for Brazil, we think that people just perceive for in the uncongested flow rate. Don't know if it was that the question.
I think it's I think you chose, to me you chose that your option 2. So it's like this was a good way to validate the current division in terms of level of service. But I mean, we can also try to improve this, and
No, of course.
I think you guys did a really good job doing this. Professor Scott just raised his hand.
I apologize. I'm not sure what the protocol here is. Can I jump back in? Okay. And I apologize again. My Portuguese is not very good. How should I refer to you, Dr. Flavio?
No, Flavio. Just Flavio.
Okay. Flavio. Okay. Yeah. And please call me Scott. I think Flavio raises some excellent points, Piva, and and again, this is not necessarily getting into any criticisms with your work, but just a broader discussion moving forward. And I think the noting of the perception of grade is extremely good. That is always something that's difficult to pick up from video, photography, even from that in-vehicle perspective. If you've ever gone into Google Earth and done the street view and looked at a street that you're familiar with, it has a specific grade. It's hard to discern, what that really is. So I think including that caveat, I just don't recall if you have that mentioned in your dissertation, that's a potential limitation and just something to be cognizant of for future research. And the pavement quality, likewise, we've wrestled with that, particularly for truck drivers. That's something that is mentioned repeatedly is the pavement quality. They're very sensitive to that. But I think the question about, what does the Highway Capacity Quality Service Committee do with this, which, and I've been part of that committee for a long time. And one thing, that we could have our own multiple hour discussion about the whole level service concept. It's something that the committee has wrestled with for a very, very long time. There's some people that like it, and some people wish we'd never done that, but that goes back to 1965. So, nobody's still on the committee that was involved in that decision. But I don't know. I think you had it explained in your document, but I don't know that you really started off the presentation talking about the importance of what transportation agencies do, the investments that they make in the infrastructure being able to be perceived by the roadway users. And granted, sometimes agencies may look at infrastructure investments a little bit differently from how the traveling public does. But if they're making these large investments and changing things in the motoring public, or even non-motorized users aren't seeing the supposed improvements, then you have a sort of a public relations challenge there. And so, the committee recognized many years ago that this was a potential criticism of the committee's work, that, we're behind these closed doors and we have these discussions, and then we decide on density for freeways or delay for intersections and so on without getting that public traveling input. And so, yeah, there has been a little bit of more emphasis on trying to encourage those kind of studies. The committee itself doesn't necessarily have those resources, but there have been some projects that have been funded, say through National Cooperative Highway Research Program, that have tried to emphasize the user perception aspect. And so I think this work is important in terms of identifying a method to more efficiently solicit that input. But yeah, it's still subject to limitations, as are all the other methods that have been tried as well. I think, and I'm just one person that's been involved with the committee, but from my perspective, this work should be referenced in the manual as something that does support the use of density for freeways. It's also used for highways, but this multi-lane highways, this is focused on the freeways. But, but as other work comes along that possibly is counter to these results, I think that's something, again, that we need to look at. But I do think, yeah, this work should be referenced, and certainly I'll make it known to the committee about this work. But yeah, I think I'll stop
Piva
there.
has to publish the other paper.
Yeah.
The next paper
Right.
that is delaying to send to the
Right.
journals. But
Oh
the
yeah,
paper
sorry. I
that-
know the
that
other thing I was
explains
gonna
that.
mention. The socio-demographic or socioeconomic. That's something that, again, there's been a lot of discussion about, and it's sort of a double-edged sword with that, because on the one hand, you do think that older drivers may see things a little bit differently than younger drivers, or male drivers versus female drivers, or any number of things. But how does an agency use that information? Because you don't have that. You see a vehicle traveling down the road, but you don't necessarily know if it's an older driver, or male driver, or rich driver, poor driver, and so on. So that is like kind of an interesting result too, that you found that those were not very significant. So it's sort of a good thing from an agency standpoint to know that that's not something that's maybe going to be a strong factor in how their investment decisions are made. But I do think there have been some other studies, I don't know about on the freeway side, but maybe arterials, that have found some of those factors to be important. But they are challenging questions. How do you incorporate that into the HCM methods? But anyway, sorry, I kind of got long-winded, so let me stop again.
And just to say to Dr. Flavio, at the end of the survey, the person is allowed to do some comments of any kind that the person wants. And then in some comments, they said, "Oh, there is no potholes in the highway, so I give you 100 for everything. Oh, all the videos were made during the day, so I give you 100 for all the grades." Or the person says, "Oh, the road next to my home is terrible, so I give you all 0." Then we have to put that filter with the 50 difference from the lowest and the highest grade, because then I said to doctor, said, "Well, we have to, this is not the issue of the research. If there is, and we cannot put in this traffic simulator this kind of thing. Oh, we can put fog on the vScene, we can put something like that, but we cannot put potholes. Just if we record the video from but then we go again to, we can't have 400 videos using different characteristics. So I understand that we have to emphasize this in the dissertation, but it was a problem, and some people comment things like this.
If I may, I just want to say that there is the National Confederation for Transportation, which is the lobby for the trucking industry and all sorts of transportation. And they do an annual survey of the quality of roads, and they rank all the major roads in the country according to lots of different aspects. And one of them include apparently is also security, like the environment. If the trucker is safer, or if it's an unsafe region, and what kind of policing that they have in the. So it's a very complete survey, but it's not very good for the traffic agency, because you don't have any control about how many police cars are going to be on the road. And also, we decided to use density, Flavio, because we need to have a measure of performance that can be measured by the equipment that we have on the road. And we can count how many cars are traveling over a point, but we cannot measure how the drivers are feeling about the environment. And I think if we would ask questions about the pavement, we probably would need to drive over the pavement, because in a simulation we wouldn't be possible to do that. But our initial idea when Piva started was that those limits that we find in the HCM, they are sort of arbitrary limits, and Scott might even explain a little bit about that, where the members of the committee decide it's going to be 6, 7, or 8, or 10, or 11, or whichever number they choose. And so what we wanted to propose was a way that would involve the drivers in giving some information about how they are perceiving the quality of their trip, so we can look better at those numbers. And the thing that we find is that for levels of service A, B, and C, the limits are chosen by the committee are very good. They agree with what we measured. The only point that's different is that the users cannot distinguish between levels of service D and E.
Oh, okay, Seti. Scott, thanks. Piva, I promise I only say good things about your work from now on. Let me go back to the beginning. First of all, I think, Piva, this is serious now. I'm not kidding. From the academic point of view, looking at you as a researcher, I think that the thesis is very good. Okay, I'm going off the topic right now, because I mean you've shown that you can use several analytical tools, important tools, and you came up with a very interesting questions and the way that you solve the questions. To me, this is this is clear that the work is very nice. I mean, the way you use VSIM, the way you selected the representative car, which I have some reservations as well, but let's talk about it later. The way that you chose the 5 levels of service after eliminating the outliers and everything. This is very good, and I trust me, for somebody who's been suffering with VSIM since 2005, I know that VSIM can represent pavement, cannot represent centrifugal force on a core, another problem, and other stuff. Trust me, I went through a very rough patch when I decided to work with road safety and microscopic simulation.
Yeah.
That brought me a lot of challenge. I'm only bringing up those points right now because I had almost nothing to criticize in terms of your written paper and the written document. And this is good because this gives us some time to discuss more important things, like future directions. I mean, from your work, for example, we can see that guys that are developing VSIM right now, VISM, they can say, well, what if we could improve a little bit more this software in terms of representing better grades or even better curves. We know that on highways, on freeways, radius are really large in general, right? But this will come up to them and as what if we improve this? And I was like, I've been working on urban areas. Scott doesn't know me a lot, but I've been working on urban areas, which is very complicated. So I was thinking, what if we use VISM on an urban area that we could put outdoors, billboards, and everything, and this come up with one other factor to include in the level of service. So I mean, this is very nice. This is very good. Okay. So having said that, I was, after reading the whole work, Piva, and watching your presentation today, I was thinking that maybe, what do you think of this? Maybe chapter 4, which is the chapter you try to investigate which one was the most important factor that affect user perception. I was thinking that maybe chapter 4 would be better if it comes before chapter 3. I'll explain you why. Because on chapter 4, I could notice that percentage of trucks. Professor Scott already spoke about that. Percentage of trucks begins to be important after 7. I'm sorry, passenger cars per lane or something per kilometer. So this could improve or reduce the range of grades you got in the 3rd chapter. So you see, we could see that your level of service A, your K from level of service A and B closely match to HCM. We're very close, a very little different. But when it comes to level of service D and E, which you ended up you ended up joining D and E, right? And C you preserved. So I was thinking, if you knowing this before running, because I mean we did everything together, right? But if you have checked this before, you probably could, if you tried to make 2 different analysis, one with low levels of trucks and everything held constant, you may have had like a short range. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
No,
would be more close to the HCM result. And this is one thing that maybe important at this point. What do you have to say about it? What do you think?
Yeah, we discussed a lot if the chapter, which one was going to be first, the chapter 4 or chapter 3. But when we started to, as you see that it's almost 3 different papers, when we started to write the 2nd paper and put in the chapter 3, we start to discuss how the online survey was created. So the person has to, we watched the video created on chapter 2, and we will give us the ratings. So when we created this chapter 3, then we said, oh, we have to do the next one to more analysis of each factor and each one. One of the things is that on chapter 3, we try to use all the 5 factors, the 5 traffic factors, when we converted to passenger cars. We try to solve this, not solve, but try to do something, yeah. But yeah, we think, I'm not pretty sure if it's just, we have to show how the online survey was made on the chapter 4, put in the chapter 3, and then the chapter 3 just calculate the level of service, something like that.
No. It's very interesting. On chapter 3, when you guys, it's hard to go sequentially, because I mean it's very intricate and everything. It's nice, which is nice, I think. And you decided to make every chapter like a paper, right? Was the structure you guys decided, which is to me
Yes.
also very, very interesting. I think it, and in URGS at Elena's University, they do this a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, on page 46, I guess there's the I mean the different groups. Let me just put on 46.
In there. Okay.
Figure 14, right? So
Yeah.
it's interesting. This figure is interesting because in the x-axis you have density in passenger cars. So you transform the percentage of trucks, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah. We transform trucks
and grades and everything
in passenger cars, and then, but we also calculate with we also calculate the passenger car with the grade,
you
all
put grades
the other things. Yeah.
number of lanes and
Yeah.
everything. So it was like so maybe if we separate, when I say separate is so if we decided once trucks were the second most important factor, although way less important than the density. If we had, let's say, 4 or 3 different evaluations, one it's 0%, so just put everything on under 0% trucks, and then everybody under 2% trucks, and everybody under 4% trucks, and forget the rest. I mean, you can transform grades and everything. So probably the difference in terms of level of service would be lower. I mean, less dispersion among the different ranges of case. It's just an, I mean, food for thought.
I understand.
So so guys, I'm running out of questions here. Just we're just gonna pass the floor to Elena in a minute. Piva, I think that in terms of specific comments, probably what I would suggest, I'll try to follow the order here a little bit. In your abstract, I think that you could, if you try, you could reduce it a little bit more. It's probably with me. I think that's one page abstract to me seems to be the nice. I mean, it's all fit in. I mean, if you could, but I mean the other suggestions are a little bit more technical. I would try to include in the abstract some of the limitations and future opportunities, future work. And you already mentioned it during the text for chapter 2, chapter 3. the terms of the just one moment, Professor, representativity of the sample. So your samples seem to be more, not the number of observations, please, but your sample seems to be to have more undergraduate level students, like the education level, although you found that was not significant. So maybe the abstract would be a good thing to just to summarize some of those points. Professor Scott, please.
You have to open your microphone, Dr. Scott.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, you guys are going to regret asking me to be part of this discussion. Well, again, just to kind of add to what Flavio's saying, and it's interesting because I've had a lot of these thoughts myself as we've discussed the level of service concept within the committee. And while density is certainly a very significant factor, and maybe the most significant factor, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it still is not explaining, a huge amount of the variability in the level of service rankings. And, I've thought over the years that possibly like a level of service function ultimately may be the way to go. And we've actually done that for bicycle and pedestrian level service in the HCM. And I don't know if you've looked at that at all, but, we have a BLOS, a PLOS, bicycle pedestrian level service score. And that's a function. And I had to refresh my own memory. I just pulled it up. And for bicycles, for example, on 2-lane highways, it's a function of the directional demand flow rate and effective speed factor. It has to do with the speed differential between bikes and the adjacent cars and the heavy vehicle percentage, and even has a factor for the FHWA's 5-point pavement surface condition rating, as well as an average effective lane width. And so, moving forward, again, there's really no reason why we couldn't try to move that direction with the motorized vehicles and have, like you say, if we can come up with good ways to estimate it, either from user perception or use the FHWA pavement condition ratings. But you were even, if I heard you correctly, even talking about the influence of roadside signage on motorist perceptions of the conditions. And so there's a lot of those other factors you could bring in, and maybe even grade itself would be a specific main effect, but also an interaction with some other variables as well. So I just wanted to bring this up because I didn't want you to think like you're out there on an island thinking these things, because there's been a lot of discussion about this, and even myself is in favor of trying to potentially move that direction. But I would just echo what you were saying about making sure, Piva, that you're clearly identifying the limitations in your approach, and even to the extent that you're not going to have to add a large amount of text, what the ramifications are for future directions with this.
If I may, I just Piva results show that the density only explains 52% of the variation of the ratings, because Spearman's rule is 0.52. So that means it's just about half of it might be the most important factor, but it's certainly not the only factor that is affecting. And another problem that we discover later, and Piva mentioned in passing, is that people usually tend to give a grade of 0 or 100. And this is something that we learned later on when we started to speak to some psychologists that do those measurements. And like if people like it, it's the highest grade. If they don't like it, it's the lowest possible grade that they can give. And so that explains the large number of ratings that are 0 or 100. and it's much more frequent than any other rating that we can find there. And this is probably another factor of confusion when you're trying to incorporate the perception of the drivers, the participants in the sample, that it's not something rational or very easy to measure either. So there's this other level of confusion that's added to the whole thing. And about the sequence, Flavio, I have to tell you that I don't know how many hours Piva and I spent discussing which chapter should come first. And sometimes I think that we got it in the wrong order, and sometimes I think that we got it in the right order. But the decision of building the thesis on papers instead of a traditional text that you might be related to that as well. I think we're still learning how to do a thesis based on papers instead of the more traditional book or
Yeah.
I don't know the word but it's more like a text that has from the introduction to the conclusion that a sequence, sequential argument or something like that. This thing about having the papers and in chapter 2, right, was already published.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter
3 and 4 are getting ready. Chapter 3 is ready to go. He was waiting to, I don't know why he's waiting to send the paper in. And on chapter 4, we're still discussing some aspects to see what we're going to do. But we're learning.
Yeah, just to add to the comment of Dr. Sachi, when we saw that there was a lot of rates, 100 and 0, then the first thought is, let's eliminate this rate from the sample. But they are in a great way. For example, we have a lot of 100 rates for light traffic and a lot of 0 rates for heavy traffic. So we said, no, we can't do that, because if we try to do that, the model is not going to be good. Maybe in the next one, we can just send to the person, it's good or not. You can say yes or no, and then
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, those Likert scale is something like this, right? To not link 0 and 10, or 0 and 100, like here in Brazil, our grade system goes from 0 to 10. But Piva, guys, let me just touch in another 2 short points, and you're gonna be rid of me. I'm sorry. I mean, because it's interesting. I was listening Sachi when Sachi said we know that K is not the only factor. Maybe all this discussion came to me because in the title it really focused on user perception. So in academically or methodologically speaking, the first thing that crossed my mind at the time was, okay, let's see first what would be the most important factors, okay, for to the user as a driver, as a traveler, to grade a stretch of road as good or bad or whatever. So and then looking at this, so the research, I call it, please don't look at it the wrong way. Sometimes I call my students, guys, we are opportunists. We have this fruit hanging really low here, which in this case specifically, well, we have a very nice simulator, microscopic simulation tool that is capable of representing a 3D environment, and I can construct, and this is very good because it's going to be very cheap to produce it. I mean, you did some very hard working, but we're gonna have a very large sample So sometimes when I think of this, so we are receiving the user perception, the user grade, but we kind of are limited in some of aspects of this, the whole journey itself. But I mean, I understand this completely. I'm just trying to explain why I was trying to, well, what if the pavement is different, the grade and everything, even lane width can influence. But so the last point is, I was again focusing on the experiment, the sample that you guys, you had a very large sample, very large number of observation, and constructing on the problem that you guys reported. Well, some guys just graded 100 with a very high density level, and grade 0 for a very low traffic volume or density. I was wondering, what do you think would happen if we separated? Let's pick one of the middle levels, level C, for example, a K that represents level C, and you selected 4 videos or 3 videos, different videos, but with your selected car, your perfect car, your reference car, and you give to the same person. Okay?
Okay.
3 videos from 3 cars that you got precisely. You pick. It's a very nice method. You have to pick the car. You detailed here in the text. Very nice. So what do you think it will happen if you give 3 videos, 1-minute videos, to me on a level, the middle level C, for example? Do you think that it would have, we would expect a lot of variation on this? So I'm thinking about
yes, we have. No, yeah,
on the same user.
Because I don't know if I explained right on the
Maybe we already did.
on the no, but when if the person watched the 12 videos, the person will have to see one video in bad traffic and one video from good traffic and some in the middle. Okay. And when we create this 3 replication, if the person watches these 12 videos, the person will see the 3 replications. So we have the scenarios, and the person watched the 3 replication. In one moment, we put a filter in the model that, for example, if the rate for the same scenario was higher than 50, this person didn't understand, then we start to delete a lot of people. So even in the same scenario, persons have different understanding about that. And in some places, because some people answered the survey, and after they came to me, oh, I didn't know if I answered that right. No, there is no right. It's your feeling. And there was some people that said, oh, the speed limit was 120. I was at 150. So in that video, because there was nobody in front of me, I gave you a bad rate. So when we start to analyze, this video, the person gave a great, for example, 100, 150. If you watch that video, maybe there was another factor that the person analyzed it, and we don't know how to incorporate in the model. For example, I think that the simulation, what brings us is that we could even now rerun the scenarios and collect another, I don't know, the difference from the car, from the traffic stream, the difference of speed and then we can evaluate if the persons are. I think there was one that study from Denmark. The person analyzed like 60 different factors only for the videos, and she said the density.
Flavio, the within subject variance was really high.
Okay.
We had Scott had suggested that we replicated 3 videos
Okay.
to make sure that the participant was consistent with their rating.
Okay.
And when we started looking at the ratings that they gave for this 3, there are 3 different videos for the same level of service, same density.
Yeah.
And they are exactly for the same. Everything is equal. The only thing is that it's another car going under the same conditions, and the difference in ratings was abysmal.
Okay.
We had a filter, and we had to delete that filter because otherwise we would have a sample that was very small. Very few people are consistent with their judgment. And so it might be a conclusion that we should have even included in the papers, that the users are not consistent. They are not rational.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I didn't get quite clear this part on the text. I'm sorry. So I think Sachi, Piva, I'm really happy with the results. I mean, what I read and what I'm watching here. I mean, discussion and everything. And I put some observations on the document and the PDF. I can send you later. Just really small stuff. Some of them just highlighting for me to remember parts. So please feel free to use it or delete it. And I'll pass the word to you, back to you, Sachi, and then to Elena. Thank you very much again.
We can change the order of chapter 3 and chapter 4 if you feel that.
No. It's up to you, man. You decided. To me, it's really nice.
Yeah. It's not very difficult to change the order of the chapters, even because it's like separate, like self-contained chapters. So the order really wouldn't make a lot of difference. Well, thank you, Flavio. Thank you for your observations. They were excellent, and thanks a lot. And you also got a place for my next PhD student, who is really studying the aspects that affect the perception of the quality of the trip. So I'm going to invite you for the next defense, which is probably going to be in the beginning of next year.
That's fine. It's going to be a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, no, it's because you're mentioning those things, and so it's good to know that some odd people besides us have interest in the subject. Well, now I'm going to invite Helena Cibis from the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul to place questions to the candidate. And thank you very much, Helena, for accepting the invitation.
Thank you, Sachi. Thank you, Piva, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to see you again after such a long time in person, or at least in video. It was a pleasure to read this thesis. I think it's a very interesting subject. It can be a basis, certainly, for further research and further very interesting research. It's a very important issue. The methodology is very consistent. I enjoyed very much reading all the chapters. Particularly, I enjoyed very much reading the chapter 2, because it's very detailed, and you have been thinking about things. As long as I was reading, I was thinking about and then you suggested something that somehow addressed my questions, and it was very interesting reading that. I can only congratulate you. I think the work is very good. The thesis is not very long, but it's very clear, and it's very nice to read it. it's not very good to read long and confusing text, and your text is very clear. But well, congratulations to you and Sechi and Scott and everyone who helped you. The first thing I'd like to talk about is you have been discussing a lot of things. I will probably not mention some of these things and point out some other things that you have already mentioned. The first thing I would like to talk is about your structure. Although the thesis is very easy to read, it's really a challenge to structure a thesis based on articles, because we inevitably need to repeat and be redundant along the text. And I think chapter 1, the introduction and conclusions, when we write a thesis in this way, are key chapters to structure all the documents in order to help readers. As long as I was reading, I realized that maybe you could, and that's a suggestion, make some changes in the introduction and conclusions in order to somehow align all these chapters. We work with this model of thesis. Our PhD write thesis on the basis of a collection of articles. And my suggestion is that you somehow align all your articles within the first chapter. It was not clear from the introduction when I started reading that you are presenting several articles. It seemed to me that you are presenting several bits of your research, but they are actually articles, complete articles. You have a set of questions, research questions, that are very interesting and that helped us reading all your text. But all these research questions were not addressed along in each. They were addressed in different articles. My suggestion is that when you present your research questions, first of all, state clearly that your thesis is presented as a set of articles. The first article in chapter 2 has been already published, okay, but the article in chapter 3 and 4 have not been already published, as long as I understood. My suggestion is that you state clearly, we have 3 articles. Article 1 was subjected and presented in such a conference or journal. Article 2 is related with a subject, and Article 3 is a different article related with different. If you have the journals or the conferences where you already intend to submit, I think it should be interesting, but that's just a suggestion. But the main thing is your research questions, they have been addressed. Some of them have been addressed in Article 1, 2 or 3. My suggestion is that you somehow relate the research questions to the articles. If it would be even simpler if you organized in a flow chart or something like that. I can send you an example if you want to, but I think this will make your whole document clearer. That's a suggestion. The other point, and then I would somehow mention, just a moment. Regarding your chapter 2, as I said before, I enjoyed very much reading it. I think it was very interesting, and I somehow we have done a similar work in Talbot, and I understood and somehow put myself in your shoes, trying to understand what you are doing and the sort of challenges you are facing, and I enjoyed very much reading it. But as long as I was reading, I was thinking about what if Okay. And if you had a picture where you had a rear view from your simulation, why didn't you consider the distance from the following vehicles and just from the leader? Would it make some difference on your results?
I really don't know, but the problem is that when I studied the VCN 11, you have, if I do that, I have to find which is that vehicle and see if what is the following distance, because they don't have, for example, oh, I'm in this car, I have to know the distance from the car behind. I didn't remember if in VC11 we have this kind of variable that we can extract from the work. So I have to make some program to see. Oh, I have to uh, create this video from this vehicle, like the vehicle 1012, and I have to look what is the what vehicle am following me, and then see this following distance. Understand?
Yes.
I don't know
Do
if
you think it would make a big difference?
I don't know. I don't think so.
And that's the main point. I just came up to me about these questions and what if, and I'm asking you, but I'm not sure if it would make some difference on the
No,
quality of the environment you were showing.
I think that the person, for example, oh, the traffic is getting heavier ahead of me. Let me look at the mirror to see
Yeah.
if something is happening. But I don't know if the person evaluate the from distance or looking at the mirror. Oh, everybody is behind me. I'm gonna give you a bad rate. I don't know exactly if.
And how about adjacent lanes? I know it's difficult, but how? As long as you are programming, you are not doing it by yourself. It would be just a matter of identifying how to solve this problem.
The surrounding vehicles.
Yes.
Yes, well, actually, in the chapter 2, it was one of the suggestions for future works
Yeah.
to evaluate all the Platon, not only because this was a problem. I evaluate only the vehicle ahead, the distance from the vehicle ahead. If
And
surrounding
it's
me
great.
it was a
I'm
mess,
not criticizing it. I'm just asking why if could it be improved
yeah,
considering that?
no, that was. Yeah, I think that this is the problem where Dr. Flavio already said is a problem for level of service C or something D, but for heavy traffic, a lot of almost the capacity, and for light traffic, it was not going to be a
Yeah.
problem. But
Problem.
I think if we can create a program to see, oh, if we are looking at this vehicle, we have to see all surrounded things. Might be could be a lot more precise than this method we create. But like I think that the twice that we met in the TRB, the first time I stopped you and say, "Hey, I have a problem with my research. My videos are," and that was that graphic that we chosen them randomly. Then we start to create some. Then we started to create some filters too, but then once again, if we put a lot of filters, there was one time that uh, the the program didn't find this vehicle. For example, I ran the 24 hours and they found two vehicles. Oh, I have a problem. I have to try to, oh, this filter I can't uh, put here. And so, yeah, it was like a trade-off.
Yeah.
If we can
Uh,
put more futures to to find this video or not?
I agree and understand completely, Piva. I was just asking, as your results showed, you have some problems, or respondents have some problems identifying difference in level of service at very congested situations. Then I started thinking about what sort of changes could you make in your structure, methodology, that could help respondents to understand more clearly what would be a difference of quality perceived at these conditions. One of them, for me, could be, okay, could we somehow, or could you somehow improve your decision about this vehicle? I understand that simulation is very different from reality, and sometimes we cannot reproduce real situations. But I was just considering, well, would it be possible? Could you somehow improve your programming process in order to select vehicles that could be further from this ideal situation? And that's one point I'm asking. But anyway, I think your methodology is great. I think I have thought about many things, and I was very happy about reading them as long as I was following your chapter, and I think it's great. Another question that struck me, you have been talking a lot about it, is relates about trucks. Your research group, SETI, and your colleagues have researched a lot about trucks in Brazilian environment. Then I was expecting that you somehow would include explicitly trucks in your in your experiment, and they were included or considered as a conversion of units of vehicles using the highway capacity manual procedure. Why didn't you consider explicitly trucks in your environment, and how was this trucks composition, and how did you include? How was trucks for you? You said that just in your paper that you have had a certain percentage of trucks in the flow, but what are these flows? Who are them, and how did you consider?
Yeah, to enter in the simulation, there was some data from Artesp, from the Rodoanel, and also in the dissertation of Felipe, I think he collected some data, and to enter the model, the composition of the trucks, I used this data that were collected by Artesp here in São Paulo. And another thing is there was another research, the master degree research that we incorporated in the model using the truck power, forgot the name, the truck performance measure that Luan made for SATI. That was one of the things in this research also. I have to wait the Felipe, it was Betônico and Carvalho to finish their research to include in the model the following characteristics of the drivers and the trucks. So that's the things that I included in the model: the truck performance and the proportion of large trucks or light trucks. I put using this Artesp data collected, but I
Just
didn't.
one question. Did you mention it in
No.
the text? Okay, because I didn't
No,
find it. And you should.
the both studies I mentioned that I used the parameters calibrated,
Okay, but you're not
but
explicit about them.
the proportion no. But I can find it again, and you can include that the proportion of trucks.
Okay, I didn't notice. Maybe well, I didn't notice. I passed through it, but I think that it's important because you are applying a methodology for Brazilian drivers, and as much as you represent Brazilian conditions, you somehow give more than the methodology that you have already devised and presented. You have a research about Brazilian conditions, and then I think it's important for you to mention and emphasize this because there is quite a lot of work that your group has been doing, and it's very important.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, but my question is, why did you choose not to consider explicitly drivers, and why did you consider that this conversion to passenger car units okay?
But like what? Sorry, I don't understand the question
The
itself.
trucks could be another variable that you could explicitly consider.
But maybe if I consider just the truck percent or something like that, or
I don't know. Yeah.
why I didn't choose another. No,
No, I just had the impression that if trucks were more explicitly considered, at least for this higher level of service, it could somehow give a different result. Would it be possible?
yes, we can create more scenarios for heavy traffic, and insert. Yeah, we can. For example, now that we know that, for example, only after 7 vehicles per kilometer the person starts to perceive the trucks, we could make more videos with I don't know, more trucks in this, or with more divisions than just uh, 10% or something like that. Yeah, it is possible to include. I don't know exactly. I think that, for example, if you inserted 60% of trucks in a heavy traffic and with a high slope, probably the person will see that, oh, it's terrible. I'm going to give you bad rates. But again, we could do some experiments like that.
I'm just discussing and well, we are just in what if, because I'm not questioning your decisions. I think they are sound. And it's very easy to find what if questions after you have finished a work.
No, but
But
I think,
anyway, I'm just exploring what are your feelings, and if you had to consider trucks more explicitly and somehow represent their impact in a more
yeah,
specific
what
way,
what
what would
we
you do?
what we saw in the answers is that uh, heavy trucks and slope great 4% of great magnitude impacting the person more than if it's in a level terrain, for example. So
But if I may, I think that what Scott mentioned about a function for assessing the level of service would be the way to include specifically the percentage of trucks in the traffic flow, because there is an effect, but the effect is only important when you are getting to the higher densities, and also it also I think that the other point that should appear is the difference in speed between trucks and cars. If the trucks are going at the same speed as a car, they might not be as perceived as like it's something bad for the quality of the trip, as if the trucks are going much slower. So, but what we were looking to was the density what was the point in the density that would separate from the threshold between the levels of service. And to do that, we needed to convert the trucks into passenger cars. So that's why we did. And but we used the equivalent, the PCE values that were calculated for Brazilian trucks. So,
and I think the answer that the decision tree gave us was really interesting, because I didn't think about, oh, if there is light traffic, doesn't matter if there is trucks, there are not the person, and we could find this in this research. I think that the decision tree was really interesting because of this, and only if you have, and if you're driving on a highway, is that same thing. You're just oh, it's just me and another truck. Okay, if there is a lot of trucks and a lot of cars, that might be a problem. The percentage of trucks. Then what you say could be a future work. For example, you just made videos from 7 to 29 passenger cars or vehicles per kilometers per lane, and you include more trucks. And even if you do that, you can change the experimental and made like 4 different levels for trucks and 4 different levels for density or something like that.
Just one question that was not clear for me from reading the text. When you converted trucks in PCI, passenger car units, did you use your equivalents that you find in Brazilian work set, or what did you use?
No, it's all the same. No, we use the HCM. No, but no, we use the HCM model, not just to convert it. We use the HCM model, not the other studies that we made.
Okay. Well, I had the impression.
But I can tell you that the differences are very small.
Very small.
Yeah, I have another paper coming that tells the numbers, and the differences are not very big.
Okay.
The differences are big for very steep grades. Then that's where, but for the 2 types of grades that we had, that was 1% and 4%. The differences are not very significant. It's like maybe 0.2 or 0.3 passenger cars or something like that.
Great. Well, as I said, Piva and Sete, I was in the what if situation, and it's very easy to find what ifs after you have a whole work and you have the results, and you know what happened after you have all this work during 5 years. Anyway, trucks were in my mind, and I was asking. Well, what can I say? As I said, I have been discussing for a long time, and I don't like to take much longer. But the other philosophical question that I had is about results from users' perception and the relation and these perceptions and the places where the research have been done, and the facilities and characteristics of the facilities where the research has been done. You have a table, I think table 5 in page 48, where you compare several results, similar results, where you have densities and different research from different authors, and you compare values. And then I was thinking about what are the reasons for these differences? Would they due to the respondents' characteristics? Would they due to the location where this research have been done? Would these differences happen because of the methodology the research applied? And I think this is an interesting discussion, and when we have done some related works around here and with colleagues, and I think this is a sort of analysis that question that always come to our mind. How do you reckon the differences in these table 5 results, page 48?
I think that probably is because the difference of the sample that answer the videos. Also, I think that maybe the difference of the for example, if we have 13 video clips to show, maybe it's not because it's not the same as you show a lot of videos for different people, for a lot of people, and the person start to, but we have some difference. I think that Dr. Washburn used the probit to calculate the level of service in this study. But I think the most important thing is the sample that answered the. I think if you started to do this, for example, in Porto Alegre or in Germany or in India, it will give different boundaries. Here, we in our convenience sample, there was a lot of person from São Paulo. One of the things that we could try to do is try to calculate for different states here in Brazil. But then maybe, I don't know, in Fortaleza, people made a research. Maybe people from Porto Alegre made another research, and we tried to see. The only problem is that to create these videos, we have this parameters calibrated and person from the local to answer that. Then we could really answer that 1 million question that you made.
Yes, well, that's something that always strikes, because we have the impression. Well, I work in what is Scott saying? I don't know. I couldn't read. Scott has mentioned.
I was just pointing out that our study from table 5 there was specific to rural freeways, and what we've found, at least in the U.S., but probably other countries as well, is people are a little more sensitive to congestion on rural freeways than they are urban conditions. So I think that's one explanation, not necessarily the entire why our thresholds are a little bit lower.
Yes.
Particularly as you get closer to the quote unquote worse level service categories.
It would be interesting to understand how the experience and expectation of respondents and users would impact in this feeling. And this is a very interesting outcome that we could have from this sort of research, because the level of services may not be perceived, may not be the same in any sort of facility. If people have experience with congestion, they will not be so sensitive to congestion as would another population that's not so. And this variation, I think it's very rich and very important. And this sort of research enables us to understand these differences of perception. Because it's not reasonable that you have just one level. Well, it's practical, but may not be real to assume that the perception of quality is the same for any sort of facility. just based on the layout of the facility or something like that. And this approach, this methodological approach, enable us to understand these differences based on locations. I know the highway capacity manual has these differences between urban and rural, but okay, would it be real? Would it be different? And I think this methodology enable us to understand further these differences between expectation from different populations or something like that. And that's one of the reasons I think this work is so interesting. Okay, Piva, Seth, I think you have been talking a lot. As I mentioned, I think your work is very interesting. My only suggestion is about the introduction. I somehow agree with Flavia. I had the same impression that the chapter 4 were more generic, and I would somehow put it before, but it doesn't really compromise the understanding of the paper. The document is just a feeling, a general feeling. What I would recommend is that somehow you link your research questions to your papers, because it will be clearer. You're not addressing all research questions in all of them. The reader would be prepared to what he would expect from each of them, and state clearly that you have a thesis that is based on 3 papers, and it will be, if when the reader reads the 3rd chapter and reads the same information he has read before, he will not be annoyed, because he understands that should be expected. The other comment is that I think your conclusions are very effective, but they are short. I think you could explore more further research and some sort of comments, expand your conclusions a little bit, because you have done quite a work and has a lot of grounds for further research, for further analysis, potential for different analysis, and it would be interesting if you could somehow explore them. It will certainly improve and improve the quality and the general document. I think that's it. Thank you very much, Piva. Congratulations, Piva, Seth. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. Just say that only because we have already said in the other 3 chapters, the conclusion remarks, we said, oh, if we say everything again, the person will read and then, okay, I have already read it. Why I have to read it again?
I know that's a problem. But maybe exploring further research or something that you have not explored so much in the chapters might be interesting.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Well, in the beginning, Piva didn't want to have the conclusions because he said they are already in each chapter. So why do I have to put? And then I suggested that he should write and refer to the research questions, and that would make a way of going back and showing that all the 5 research questions that he had proposed that he was able to answer them, but thank you very much for your suggestions. I have to explain one thing about the article-based thesis. In fact, Piva would not be able to do a thesis like that because of bureaucratic reasons. It's because just this year, the university officially is accepting theses that are based on articles. And just this year that they decided that you should have an introduction and a conclusion, and then you could put the articles in the middle. And that's more or less what Piva and I decided when we were discussing how we would build a traditional thesis from the articles. And so we thought about it, and we came to the same conclusion that the university came later on. But he wouldn't be able to do it because he's been here for a long time. And so when and the regiment that regulates his thesis is the one of the year that he became a student. So he's in a kind of a limbo. But we checked with the coordinator in the program, and they said it would be all right if we didn't explicitly mention that the thesis was based on articles. But we could. He wrote in the beginning of each chapter that was based on an article that he had published before, and that's more or less how we were able to do it. So I think that for the future it's going to be easier, because now there is a model of what you can do and what you cannot do. But thank you very much, Elena. Your comments, as usual, are very helpful, and you raised several points that we'll think about. And now I'm going to ask Dr. André Cunha to argue.
Hello. Okay. So thank you, Piva, for the invitation, and Seth. It's a pleasure to be here and finally to see you at this stage. We were working together in the beginning, and it was nice to be part of this research as well, and to be a colleague of Piva, and then support some parts of this research as well. So thank you for this invitation. I'm really proud of your work. I think you have done a big effort for this issue. And as everyone was discussing, it's a complex thing to solve, but I think that you have done well, and congratulations for your work. Of course, I have made some comments in your PDF file, and I'll send to you after the defense. But the overall, your methodological contribution is great. I think all that you have decided to do, and all the strategy, all the software, and all the problem that you solved, you made using some criteria that of course, it was good, and of course it's not true, but I agree with your decision and everything you have decided to do. But I feel I miss some parts, and as Elena said and Flavio said, there is some parts that, because first, using this format of papers, it's good. By the way, I like this as well. But maybe sometimes, like Elena said, you have to rewrite something in the introduction or some parts of your chapters just to the reader understand what are you doing or what part are you describing here or responding about your questions, research questions. And for these, some parts, like Flavio mentioned, you conclude some parts of your work, but the result was shown in the next chapter. So
Yeah.
for this, I think this sometimes, we missed some parts, and you said, oh, this is there is a strong correlation, but the statistical test was in the next section. So where is the strong correlation? So about the methodology, I think it was great. Congrats for all that you have done, the forms, the website. I followed you during all this process, and I saw all the hard work that you've done. But speaking of that, I think that you missed the form and website structure. I think that it should be an appendix, just saying the structure of the website.
Okay.
All the forms that you have done, because you mentioned the results, all the answers, the aggregated results from the user, but I think it's good to see what you have done, what you make it for future research, just to see what you have done. So looking for the PDF file, some points. Let me watch here. On page 21, in the beginning, the introduction, the literature review, you have mentioned the previous studies done here with the SET research team about this perceived quality of travel with using driver simulator or other papers here. And you mentioned two or three papers, studies only in Brazil. And my question is, there are no studies outside using drive simulations
No.
to get some of this result that you have done?
No, I didn't find a lot, but I think there was some studies outside. Yeah, maybe I have to mention that too.
Yeah, because of course I'm not. It's not invalidate your work, but
but
because you are feeling a huge gap in literature. Because if there is no studies doing this using traffic simulation to collect this kind of data, it's
yeah, it's not something that everybody's doing that. No, it's not so easy to find.
Yeah, of course.
But I think we can put some additional studies here.
Yeah, I think it's good just to describe the literature, what the other groups were done. And then just all the methodology, the simulation, the design that you propose is good. So in the page 29, when you are proposing the equation 2.2, the ranking function that you are describing, that weight, the coefficient, you have calibrated with something, or just for your feeling?
Yeah, it was like with the feelings, because it was like, oh no, let's just use this. We use just the interval that we are going to use. Then we said, no, let's try to do with the previous one and the next one. But we have to put some difference from the actual one, the interval I and the interval I minus 1 and I plus 1. And when we started to do this with the percentage of trucks, said, oh, we have to include that. And this difference from the 3 and the 10 is something like, because here I enter with percentage in the trucks, and I enter in density in the other, and so try to normalize,
just to rescale the
rescale some. But we didn't calibrate this with another model or something like that. It was just the feeling that we were creating like 1,000 times, and then okay, I think this model is okay.
Yeah, good. But just to be clear on the text, just say that you decided to use these coefficients just to try to rescale the range from the differences. Maybe it's good just to the reader know what you did.
Okay.
I really like that you have shared your sample video on the Zenode platform. It's a good platform to share this kind of result.
Just a comment, it was an issue that we three, Dr. Washburn and Dr. Seth, said, okay, in a paper, how can we describe a video?
Yeah, in a paper is different, but yeah, but it's good to share there. I have used it with my with some research with the computer vision, and you have to share your video and the results. But good to know that you have used that. And then you conclude in chapter 2 about the code, and so as you have shared with Zenodo, maybe you have to share in GitHub your code for other researchers, and you just share your link here, and then everyone can download your source code. The calibration traffic. On the page 38, I mean, this part is one of that I said that maybe not to reorder the chapter, but maybe just to rewrite the sentence, because I didn't remember if it was in chapter 2 or 3, but when you were describing your design experiment, and at this part of the page 38, you mentioned about the calibration of the traffic simulator, and then you mentioned your previous work. But maybe for the reader, it's good to just like maybe Elena said about that, just to synthesize the results. For example, what was the error that you got, or the parameters or something like that, because it was a little bit misunderstood here. You just mentioned the calibrations and mentioned the paper, but there is no more information about what you use or what kind of data. It was here in Brazil in the same highways and everything. Okay, it's good just to describe just one more sentence or paragraph. And another example of the word was when you mentioned the first time on page 44 about the fractional factorial, that you conclude that you have to use the 1/8, but just on another chapter you have described all the methodology to the outcome of 1/8. But here you mentioned the next section. On the page 45, the question is the same that Elena said about the passenger car equivalent. Like you have calibrated in your master, right? Some truck passenger equivalent, right?
Right.
Yeah, and here you just decide to use the HCM model.
Yeah, but because we have the Markey calibration model, we have your calibration model, we have
yours.
mine, we have the Luan, the Carvalho calibration model. So maybe if I'm going to use mine, or I'm going to use another one. And I think that in some where Luan calibrated, we don't have all the factors that I have to use in this track density. I think that he didn't publish all the traffic factors. I didn't remember exactly like that, but I could use mine or anyone else, but we use the HCM.
Yeah, but just like I said, just to justify, it's not wrong using the HCM, but like all the SET research team have done all this hard work calibrating all this equivalent. Why not use that? And of course, you used a calibrated version of the vSIM. You have used all the parameters that you have mentioned there, but and maybe it's embedded inside all this difference from Brazil and US. But just to justify why you use the HCM, not our previous studies. So when about the results, on the page 50, in the summary and conclusion, the section 3.5, and the end of the first paragraph, you said there is a strong correlation between density and the perceived quality of service. But where is it? Where is the strong correlation? In the next chapter, you have described all the tests, the statistical tests, and everything else.
No, okay, but
Here?
Because we said that it's minus 0.52, I think. We calculated the experiment for this part, I think. Yeah, there is.
The experiment, right, here. Okay.
It's because we calculated this with the passenger car. That's why it's.
Mm-hmm.
Because for this one here, we need more for very congested situations. So we want to create some additional
Mm-hmm.
because we are missing, there's lots of people, low density ranges and for high density ranges we can have that increase. So that's why we do simple stuff.
Videos. Yeah, maybe 500 rates.
So, but all the statistical tests are in the next chapter, just and it was more clear to understand the next chapter. Yeah. Or just mention, no,
Hey, Sati, just to let you know that we can't hear you, okay, Sati, because you're not using the mic.
I'm sorry. Just telling that Piva could put the correlation coefficient here. It's on page 46, but it's kind of hidden in the middle of the article, and so you should also repeat it at the end.
Yeah, or just mention the next section. There is all the statistical described the result. And here. Very strong correlation. And when you show the figure 14 on page 46, of course you have some different grades for all the density. And another figure that was good to see, that was your box plot on figure 18, letter E. But you have all these statistical tests you have done just with using the rating with the traffic density, right? Was a bivariate correlation.
No, like sorry, I don't understand. The box plot was made of with the whole collection of, because we have actually one sample and one sample with additional sample.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have in one part 384 videos, and on the other part 417 videos. That's what Dr. Sad said about the, because we have to complete almost to the capacity.
Yeah.
But in this part of the box plot, we didn't delete that 10% of the ratings that we made on the cluster analysis. Especially because we didn't have one cluster analysis to calculate this part of the box plot or any of this. We didn't do the cluster analysis to delete, so we can't just delete 10% for the whole sample. Then this box plot or any of this correlation, the 10% of outliers were not deleted to calculate this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think in the traffic density box plot, there was so many outliers, especially in the beginning of the box plot.
Okay. And the box plot, you use the 16 beams that you have divided, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have mentioned on the about the figure 14 about the traveler ratings that seems to be uniformly distributed, and that picture is good to see all the grades, but eventually maybe make some histogram to see if everything is uniform. Because I was thinking about this when Scott mentioned, and also Flavio. Of course, it's not to invalidate your method, it's just some suggestion or discussion about, because as you have a lot of discrepancy grades for the same user, and here, like your clusters, you have some big spread cluster now with a big bandwidth. Maybe if you have divided it by each density and just to analyze the user rating, and then after that, of course, in a future research or another paper, just to monitor or analyze like in the first one standard deviation, two standard deviation, to see if you can analyze just more concentrated values, and of course get out the outliers, because like you said, we have a lot of users that just made the 100 or 0 grades. And another question about what everyone was discussing is about you have studied your data from the social demographic data from the users, and I think Scott was mentioned that it's okay to analyze the user profile, but we can't measure this on the field. But I saw that you have collected the data. Of course, the user provide that about the type of vehicle, and maybe, of course, you have more users from car users responded to your form, but maybe this could be a good variable to differentiate this level of service, especially because, for example, if you have a turbo cooler diesel pickup, maybe everything is good for you. You are overtake everyone. Or like me, like when I'm riding the motorcycle, I don't have jam, so we can cross. But of course, you are providing some simulation visualization from the traffic, but the user are making the grade based on his or her experience, and maybe users from cars or I don't know, trucks or motorcycle could be different, especially in this case. For example, if I just use motorcycle and I don't have jams, so when I saw your videos, everything is good, so just 100. You know? Yeah, maybe it's good to analyze this kind of just to differentiate the type of vehicle. So, but the other things here is just some minor appointments that I've done. So, thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure to evaluate your work, and congrats for your proposal. I think it was a good methodological contribution that you have done. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Piva.
Thank you, Andrea. Your suggestions are very interesting, and so if you can send the PDF later with your comments. Well, I don't have any questions for Piva because I think I grilled him enough during the last 7 years.
Only on the PhD.
And so I think we had long discussions about what to do here, and I have to tell you that it was a pleasure to work with you. You were a very hardworking person, and so I think congratulations. We just need to send those two other papers for publication. Yeah. Well, Piva is now working for the federal government. He's just started last month, and he got a job at the Empresa de Planejamento e Logística there.
Nowadays it's Infra.
It's a government agency for planning, transportation planning and logistics. So I think then we can just ask
everybody,
pedir para a plateia e para o candidato sair por alguns minutos para a banca poder decidir. And I'm just asking the audience here and the candidate to leave the room so we can discuss. Vai lá, fala com ele. Well, Piva, you've been considered approved. So
Oh, thank you.
congratulations, Dr. Piva. No.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Piva.
everybody. Thank you, Dr. Elena, Dr. Washburn, Dr. Flavio. Dr. Flavio was also in my master degree
Oh,
Yeah.
committee. Dr. Elena answered a lot of questions about the videos. I think that when she arrived in Washington, she said, "Oh my God, Piva is here again." And Dr. Washburn, all for your help especially during my visiting scholar. And of course, Dr. André Cunha, as you said, we were colleagues. On the
We
other
are
day,
colleagues.
one of your students said, "It's really that André was student when you arrived in São Carlos." Yeah. And thank you, Dr. Seti, for all your help during these 10 years, during all the hours that you didn't sleep because of my research.
Congratulations.
For my friends,
Well deserved.
my mom, my dad. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
are your
Piva.
mom and dad here with you, Piva?
Sorry?
Are your dad and mom there with you?
Yes, they're here.
Yeah.
Congratulations to
Yeah.
them then.
And this time there's only his parents. And the last time there was a very, very big large number of friends and neighbors also came here. So this time was a smaller audience here. Well, I once more, I would like to thank you for being in the committee, and thank you very much for your comments. It was very good, and I think we could finish it by now. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It
Thank
was
you.
very nice to see you all. Congratulations once more.
Nice talking to
Piva,
everybody.
Sete.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aí, mó fácil.